Welcome to Late Night Love, where we dive deep into the heart of life's most pressing questions. I'm Jazz, she's Lubby, and tonight we're tackling the tough calls we all face, whether it's navigating a tricky workplace, managing family dynamics, or figuring out the complexities of love. From denied promotions to parenting dilemmas and relationship secrets to compatibility concerns, we've got it all. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and let's explore these stories together. All right. It's going to be one of those. You know how hard I had to fight to not screw up that intro that I'm sitting there reading? It was actually a tough one. I had to slow down. It's been a fast afternoon.
It really has, hasn't it? It's been one thing after another for you.
Yeah, I had to do some, I had to go grocery shopping, which is a normal Sunday thing nowadays. But I also had a thing helping a community radio station get back on the air. And so I was over there getting stuff kind of hooked back up for them and getting, okay, so where's our next steps? And helping them get worked out. They're down here. It's in the community, right?
Lovely.
The thing's literally down the street. It's
literally.
It's across the street from your coffee shop.
Okay.
So that's where you know where it is.
I think I know where.
Well, it's down the block and over, but yeah, it's across the street from the coffee shop. It's a small block. But anyway, so they got back, then had to rush, put the show together because I'd forgotten to put the show together. And look at this, and I've already got stuff messed up somehow because, hold on, we're all just focused on me at the moment because I messed up. There we go.
Here we are.
Yeah, now you can say hi, Lovey.
Hey.
So that's what happens when we don't have an engineer with us.
Yeah, our engineer is not here.
AWOL at the moment.
AWOL, yeah.
We'll call him AWOL at the moment. Just because we can. He's not here to defend himself. So we're going to do that. All right. So we're just going to jump right in. We got our life train. Even though I do want to make a comment about last week's shows. We did something completely unique last time. We spent a half an hour on the first segment, over half an hour, about 33 minutes. Over a half an hour on the second segment. And our final segment, which is the one we normally go long on, by the way, was 21 minutes. I'm just saying. So for the first time ever, we completely butchered our
MO, huh?
We've completely butchered our. We're still trying to figure out this new format. And just so everybody understands our new format, we record our shows Sunday evening. 6 or so, give or take, right? About 6, 7 o'clock, somewhere around there. And then we take that show and we edit the first chunk, the life segment where we talk about work and those kind of things. And those get dropped on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Tuesday evenings. Then we do the love segment, which is where we talk about, the love segment, which is where we talk about everything else in your life except your relationships, your personal relationships, which those we talk about on Saturday.
Yeah.
So if you catch us live, you get the whole kit and caboodle. If you catch us, here's our little terrorist right now, our cat.
We have a cat in the studio.
The cat is in the studio.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see how well behaved he gets. So anyway, so that's kind of the MO for the show at the moment, and we're trying to figure it out. And I've got the state fair coming up this next couple weeks. So the next 3 weeks are going to be, we may not be on schedule for July. July may be a little wonky in terms of
little hit and miss, yeah.
In terms of scheduling.
Yeah.
So, and then Lubby has she's gone for a week in August. So we don't know how we're going to cover that one yet. We may just record another show episode somewhere between now and then.
Yes.
In the can, so to speak. Sit down one night and just do 2.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. We can do it any time between now and then. I think probably the sooner the better, and just label it. All right. So we are just going to jump right into our questions for this evening. All right. So what do we've got first?
So we have a life. Okay, now questions. Now this person was denied a promotion I was training for.
Well,
They had him training doing cross training, learning all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was a specific position they
Mm-hmm.
said they had in mind for
Yeah.
her. And then in the end, she didn't get it.
Okay, first I want to acknowledge that this just sucks, right?
It really does.
It just from a personal perspective, it sucks. But realistically, it happens all the time. This is just you're being trained for a position does not necessarily guarantee the fact that you may or may not get it. You may be being trained as the emergency person. If person X gets hit by a bus, what happens? Well, now she knows how to do it in an emergency.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they thought she was right for the role long term. She can do it in an emergency is different than that's the person we want here all the time. Those are different things. But on the benefit side, you now have skills you didn't have before. Whether at this place or somewhere else, you now have skills that you didn't have before. Those are now marketable. You have more value in your skill set than you had previously because you can now do more things. So whether you got that particular job or not, the point is you have more skills. And yes, we're going to go back to it. For now, it sucks. It's a terrible feeling to have worked towards something and then somebody else gets it. But it happens all the time. The most obvious things are look at something like the Super Bowl. Both teams worked incredibly hard to get there. Both of them did everything right to get there. One of them has to not win. And I was listening to a podcast with a NFL player, and he says, it's losing hurts more than winning feels good, and that kind of a thing. This is someone who's done both, right?
Yeah.
He said losing is worse.
It is.
Losing is worse than winning is good. So you'd almost rather not make it because you've gotten all the way to the Super Bowl, then you've lost, and your season feels like a failure. You're the second most successful team, and your season feels like a failure. While some team that barely scraped into the playoffs feels successful because they weren't supposed to be there. Right? So, yeah, it sucks, but this is the first line in many things that will suck, but take your benefit out of it. You now have more skills. You can now go somewhere else and say, yes, I can do these kind of things. I've been trained for them. And don't worry, try not to carry your emotional feelings over this thing with the person who's taking over that role. It's not their fault. They got the job and you didn't. I mean, technically it is, but it's really not. Because that's the best you can be. You don't worry about them. You're worrying about you right now.
Yeah.
And the best you can be is to be professional. And at the very least, professional and civil. Not necessarily have to be friendly. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but you don't have to be. But professional and civil. So, yeah, the answer is it sucks, but get used to it. And you now have more marketable skills. All right, what's next?
How bad does it get hanging on to a dying company? Okay, he's been there like 20 plus odd years, and he's nearing retirement, So he's wondering if he should just ride it on all the way down to the bone.
Well, there is some value in that, in a sense. I mean, how bad does it get? As long as you're aware of what you're doing, it's just another job, right? Your job becomes ending your job. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
And so at some point, yeah, they'll pay you a little bit extra for that short period of time. You're approaching retirement, which I'm assuming he's taken care of outside of the job. He's not worried about a pension that his company has to pay in. His retirement is his own. Yeah, ride it out. There's no reason not to. I mean, unless you've got a better opportunity that comes your way, then you take that. But that's usually for the young. If you're close to retirement, there's no reason to write it out. Let the young go on and do something else, and you use your experience to wind it down as responsibly as you possibly can. As long as you're aware of it, right? The ones that hurt are when people aren't aware of it, right? Slaps them out of the left field. If your eyes are open and you know that your job, your task is to close down a company, your task is to write it out because someone has to be the last guy to turn out the lights and lock the doors, right? Someone has to do it. And they're going to pay somebody to do it. So it might as well be you, especially if you're just going to ride off into retirement. Now, if you're 30 and it's a different question, right? You take an opportunity to go someplace that has a future that can grow if it comes along. Of course you do. But if you're near retirement, you're just going to retire anyway, write it out. Why not? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be fun, but earn that extra money as along the way and go right off into retirement next year. People do these kind of things every day. Don't sit on the keyboard, kitty. Good kitty. It's my answer to that.
Okay.
All right.
Can I still ask for a raise if I went on a maternity leave this year?
Well, sure you can. Your maternity leave doesn't necessarily have to do anything with your value. Some would argue it's a difficult ask, right? Because you haven't proven your value, but ask for it. Never really hurts to ask for it. Or if you wanted to be more careful, hey, what do I need to do to earn a raise or to earn a promotion or to earn the next step? And you ask that question as kind of a lead-in question too. That way you're not just asking for more money, you're asking for how do I earn more money? How do I earn more responsibility? Which generally comes with earning more money. How do I earn a better title so I can go off to the next job? Remember, sometimes your promotion isn't getting you paid now, it's getting you paid later because you now have a nice fancy title that you can take somewhere else that pays more than the place you are currently working. Sorry, that's the way it works. From personal experience, I know this is how it works. Don't get a raise, but you can get a fancy new title, which you can then take somewhere else and get a nice big hefty raise. Sure, why not? There's nothing wrong with it. Again, I would go back to being eyes open. Everybody knows what's happening. You're not being taken advantage of. You're playing the game just as much as they are. So, yeah, my title exceeds my responsibilities. Don't care. That's not my problem. Can I do the responsibilities that the title implies? Sure.
Yeah, sure, I can.
I'll figure it out. I figure everything else out. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I just ask somebody. It's all right. I ain't afraid. I'll ask somebody who knows how to do it, and they'll tell me, and then I'll go do it. It's not the end of the world. But do you think I knew how to run a radio station? That was the slightest idea. But yet I had it figured out in 3 weeks. Because I just asked somebody. So, anyway.
That's my honey.
All right. So what is next?
Working in my sleep.
Okay,
he is not okay with this.
Okay, well, you're going to have to explain
in
this.
his dreams.
Okay.
He's working and solving problems.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And he's outraged. Can I please just have my sleep? No. Uninterrupted?
No, you cannot. You cannot just have your sleep uninterrupted. It's the way it is sometimes. You've got something at work is on your head, right? This is what has happened.
Yeah.
Something is bothering you. Something is nagging you. You're worried about something. There's a big problem to solve. And if you go to kind of the dreams or reflection of what you're working through it currently, then try to learn something from them, I suppose. This is one of the things where I don't remember my dreams, so I have no clue what I dream or don't dream. So I don't have to care.
I remember my dreams sometimes.
I don't remember nothing. Anyway, so I guess the thing you can do, you can try this thing that called active dreaming. It's where you deliberately think of something of while you sleep, and you try to force yourself to dream that. But that becomes its own problem because then you're thinking instead of trying to fall asleep.
I used to do that when my girls were little. I'd talk about going to the zoo and they'd fall asleep.
Well, for those of us with insomnia, one of the things you do is you think about something, a video game you're playing or something like that, just something not stressful. And hopefully that falls asleep so your brain isn't thinking about stuff that's stressful. Mm-hmm. You actively think about stuff that's not stressful and try to go to sleep that way. But it just means you're going through a stressful time and start dealing with your stress. Do some meditation, do some yoga, exercise, active dreaming, read a book right before you go to bed instead of something to get your mind off of whatever it is your mind's on as you're falling asleep. Maybe
book is a good one. Yeah.
Who knows? Put on a movie in the background, and maybe you fall asleep to a movie. Maybe you can be picking up the movie instead of work. I don't know what the particular solution is, but try a bunch of different things. But the biggest one is try to de-stress.
Definitely.
I think that's what this has got. Okay.
How do you adjust to a 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. work shift?
This really depends on your natural body clock. If your natural body clock is a morning person, you're going to have a very difficult time with this one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a more flexible body clock or maybe even a night owl, I would be okay with this one. Right? I wouldn't have much trouble adapting to this. The hardest part of adapting to this is deciding which time is going to be your sleep period. So you figure you get off work at 12, you get home about 1, right? It's 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Well, that's only a 7.5 hour day. So you're figuring it's really 4 p.m. to 12:30, right? Maybe 4 p.m. to 1. So we'll get home at 1, you get something to eat, another hour, another half hour to eat, then another hour to relax. So you're talking 4 o'clock before you go to bed. So then you sleep to noon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to have to depend. You're just going to have to, or are you like me and just get up 10 minutes before you walk out the door and you backwards the schedule from there. So that's really all you have to do. You just have to work out your schedule and figure out, your habits and just choose your bedtime around there. Because it's all about successfully going to sleep when you need to. Surviving an off schedule is all about making sure you go to sleep when you need to. You get your sleep routine.
Yes, absolutely. That's the crux of the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're fighting your body clock, it's even more important that you do that. If you're a morning person and now you've got a 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. work shift, right? You're used to going to bed at 9. Your bedtime's 9, 10 o'clock and you're still at work. And that's tough. And you haven't even had dinner yet and done any relaxing after work. So the key is making sure you figure out your sleep schedule. And again, that often goes on your morning routine. Do you want to do stuff and how much stuff you have to get done during the day? Because you've got a couple hours of the afternoon time to get stuff done, or you can just be like everybody else and come to work late and get stuff done in the morning when you'd be coming in. So it's just a matter of figuring out your sleep time, what your sleep time works for you.
Yeah.
If you're like me and you get up 15 minutes before, you work your clock backwards. If not, you work your clock forwards. And right? How long is it going to take you to get to the end of the day? When you're going to go to bed? So when you have to get up. And yeah, the other way is okay. I know I'm going to get up 15 minutes before I leave, so everything works backwards from that. So, anyway, yeah, it's all it is. And then hopefully you're not someone who's a definitive morning or night person, because that's a difficult shift for that.
That would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't do well. Okay. Boss told me that coworkers talk behind my back.
Yeah. Coworkers talk behind your back. That's what happens. It's not high school. Just ignore it. That is always my suggestion for these things. Don't worry about it. Their chit chat is not your problem.
None of your business, really.
It might be your business, but it's not your problem, and don't make it your problem.
It's your boss's issue.
Not even your boss's issue.
Oh,
frankly.
he should have been telling him to knock it off.
Yeah, there should be the no gossip rule. What is it? Dave Ramsey, he has the no gossip rule. He'll fire you if you gossip at work. It's just a rule. It comes in with the hiring packet. None of that stuff. You don't have time for it. That's what he says. I don't have time to deal with it, so we're not dealing with it. Which is, got a good point. You're supposed to be working, not, going to high school. All right. Our last question of this segment.
Boss keeps setting my day off on holidays, and he never gets, because it's a day off anyway.
Uh-huh.
And he never gets holiday pay. Hello. That was his main gripe. He never gets holiday pay. It's a paid off day anyway.
Well, well, it depends. See, I actually have this problem, but my boss pays me for holidays when I have holiday, because I have Mondays off, and oftentimes Mondays are holidays.
Uh-huh.
But they'll pay me for that anyway. They'll pay me for the holiday, and I just kind of work a handful of less hours over the week to make it up. Something like that. It works out. It works out to both of us. We're probably violating some goofy law in California or something. It wouldn't surprise me. And which also means, depending upon where you work, that is probably some type of labor law violation, I would assume.
You would assume?
Well, if you're in California, I know it is. Right? You're manipulating. You got this whole big wage theft thing going on in California, and whether you agree with their terms or not, manipulating the schedule so you would pay your employee less than you otherwise would is considered wage theft here in California.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
So check your labor laws, but my always solution to this is, you find yourself a better employer. Once you become skilled, you no longer have to put up with low-level employers. You can move on to somebody who treats you properly. The only people who should be working at bosses who have bosses like that are people who are either A, have no skills, so they're entry-level workers, right? Or people who are B, trying to rebuild their work career because they've messed something up at some point, and someone has to give them another shot, and you're not going to get that shot from high. These are entry level. They serve a role to get people skills so somebody else will hire you, and that's the role of places like this.
Yeah.
So you start to find some place that will treat you properly. Is my always my long-term suggestion. Because even if it's a violation of labor law, just think of all the hassle you're going to have to go through to get it taken care of. At best, the labor board will do most of the work for you, but you're still going to have to go through the 6 months and the hearings and the paperwork and then you may or may not get compensated properly at the end. You never know. So the best long-term solution is to move on as best you can. All right. All right, that's it for me and Lovey tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. You can find us at latenightlove.us. You can send us your questions, comments to love@latenightlove.us. You can find us on KUBU 965 on Live 365. We can be found there as well as Spotify, YouTube. Do all the fun stuff of hitting like, subscribe, share, and all that good things, which we never do these calls to action like we're supposed to. We are so terrible about that. All right. Have a good night, and please remember to love everybody.